extraordinaire, the Gemologist.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Gemologist Presents. Today, the title of my podcast is A Weekend with Cthulhu. This past weekend, the first weekend of March, the weekend from the 1st to the 3rd, was the biannual A Weekend with Good Friends of Jackson Alias online convention sponsored by Friends of Jackson Alias podcast on their Discord. So the famous people who do this are authors from Chaosium, Matthew Sanderson, Paul Fricker, and Scott Dorwood. So if you don't know who they are, the main passion, they basically do a lot of stuff. So Matthew he's written for Vampire the Masquerade and Call of Cthulhu and Trail of Cthulhu. Paul Fricker has been designing role-playing games. He's done Cthulhu Britannica, Dockside Dogs, and the new 7th edition of Call of Cthulhu. He's a co-author. Scott Dorwood, also many Call of Cthulhu, Cubicle 7's War on Cthulhu, Chaosium, Cubicle 7 and Pelgrane Plus stuff. So yeah, they got lots of author credits. Anyway, they run on their Discord channel. They're called the Blasphemous Tomes and other names, but on the Good Friends of Jackson Alias Discord, they run this convention. So I was able to play in several games, and I'll talk about them here. I don't have any call-ins, so I guess it's just going to be that, which you'll hear my ramblings and stuff like that. So I don't know, no intro, just go into it. So I just go into it? Sure. So I played in 5 games over the weekend, 2 of which I ran, and the other 3 were pretty cool. The first time I got to play in a Trail of Cthulhu game, so it really helped me to understand better the Gumshoe system. I have lots of Gumshoe books, and while I have played or run Cthulhu Confidential with my wife Amy, I have not run Trail of Cthulhu, or for that matter, Esoterrorists, Knights, Blacks, Agents, Ashen Stars, and then the new one that they have, Secrets of the Serpentine, which I do have a free RPG day thing for, and that seems pretty cool. So that game was the first game I played. It was called Apex of Life, and then I played in a Cthulhu Invictus game, and that was pretty cool. I do not remember what it's called, but I will get back to you. The name of it is Adventure Regis, and it was a Call of Cthulhu Invictus scenario. And then I ran my Delta Green game. It's a continuation of Emergency Stent, Surfing Costa Rica. This one was called Full Moon over Miami. And then on the next day, this was not part of the Good Friends with Jackson Alias, but and you can check it out on his YouTube channel, Kevin Madison's YouTube channel, the Dungeon Musings, and I played the Elder Scrolls 3rd edition fan-made role-playing game that is out there. It was pretty fun. I really enjoyed it. It definitely felt like a Elder Scrolls kind of dungeon crawl. I think he's actually doing sort of placing it in the Skyrim area. So that was kind of neat. And then I ran my Call of Cthulhu Dark Ages scenario, and I called it Today We Hunt Dragons. It is a variation of the Hunt, which is in the Cthulhu Dark Ages book, the 7th edition book by Chad Bowser and Andy Newton with James Holloway and Mike Mason. And lastly, on Sunday morning, I played a game run by Scott Dorwood, and that was called This Is Not a Cult, and it was a modern-day Call of Cthulhu scenario. So let's start off with the games that I ran. I ran the Delta Green game, and I did propose to the players, do you want to start with how the other players... I've run this scenario from Emergency Stamp for the last 3 years at a weekend with good friends, and I asked the players if they wanted to start out where the others left off, and I gave them the what was going on, and they said, yeah. So it really ended up being a scenario on what happens when or an exercise actually for Delta Green, and what happens when you've compromised your mission. Your mission goes belly up, but you're doggone determined to finish the mission. So the players had already been kind of compromised. One of the players was possessed, so he was, but amazingly, this person was fighting it. They were able to hold off. They made their escape out of a tough situation. But then, like, there's a interesting mechanic and I'm not talking much about it in detail because, well, it's readily, well, it's not readily available, but maybe one day it will be available, and maybe I'll ask you to come and play test it or check it out, going from the beginning and running through Emergency Stunt Surfing Costa Rica and Full Moon over Miami. And this really also highlighted the the randomness of luck in the Delta Green system. Luck checks are 50-50 chance. Lower than 50, yay. Higher than 50, bad. And the player characters failed like 9 out of 10 or 11 luck rolls during the course of the game. And really they were only instigated by a failed roll on the character's part or just an escalation of certain situations. And the players knew the ramifications. Go, hey, if you start escalating here, well, there's going to be a response. And if there's a response, there's a chance that your luck will go south if you don't make roll X, right? But the other cool thing about Delta Green is if your skill is above 50, then you really don't need to roll in a common use of that situation. And that really helped. So they kind of, I will say, suffice it to say, they never got to Miami, but they still completed the mission. There were, lots of, towards the end, a good amount of action and shootouts and cat and mouse game. And just it was really very fun, very good. The characters really enjoyed the twists and turns that happened, not just because of their luck, but because of the kind of ideas I had, an outline I had running through the adventure. And I love that they each had a really nice sort of epilogue for what happened after they did successfully complete the mission with a lot of damage and destruction and a lot of cleanup by Delta Green and the agencies to do. But you know what? They kind of never got, after they, well, I'm trying to think if any of the, well, so 2 of the players managed to not get spotted ever or sort of identified. The one player who was identified did die during the scenario, and then one player the other player who had been identified, the player who'd initially been compromised, but actually managed to defeat the entity inside of them. Well, they're now they're gone. Effectively going to have to be gone from the public eye, if not for a while. If there was an ongoing campaign, they would have to break some bonds or lose some bonds, and be pretty traumatic for that player's character. So, but it was really enjoyable, and I really enjoyed running. I like running Delta Green. I really would like to run Delta Green more. We helped playtest an adventure that has just come out called God's Teeth, and I really appreciate that. I mean, I've done a lot of playtests, and I mean, when you kind of look at the finished product, you're like, well, yeah, but that still doesn't work, and they didn't really fix it. So were they really doing a playtest? I don't know. So when you send in comments, but we sent out a lot of comments about some of the scenarios in God's Teeth, and they did implement those changes. So kudos to them and to God's Teeth. I do recommend it, but it is definitely very much. It is God's Teeth is a tough adventure, and you really need the right kind of players to go through with it. It's one of the. It starts kind of in 2001, and it's supposed to be like an ongoing campaign that takes you to the present day, or at least 2021, some 20 some years later, or so. So yeah, it's a really interesting scenario. The cover is creepy as hell. if you go check out God's Teeth. I might put a link in the show notes. So I'll talk about the Trail of Cthulhu game first. So like I said, I never played it, and I really did enjoy it. It was called Apex of Life, and I believe this author, this person who ran it, is he's done some author stuff for Ashen Stars. There's quite a few creatives on there. I don't want to really give their names because unless you give your real name, people don't really know your real name, only your handle. And anyway, but this person is playtesting an adventure. It took place in New Orleans. It has a really neat homage to the Call of Cthulhu short story and Inspector Legras, but it takes place in sort of 1954, and it was pretty cool. I really enjoyed how the player character blended the mythos with the 1954 conceptions of science, and we were really there's a really cool mix of characters. I played sort of a kind of a beat cop turned detective, but sort of the one that has seen stuff and always talks about conspiracies, and no one really likes him, so it's been passed up for promotion many a time. And he was kind of like a beat 'em up, and I really enjoyed it because he got to beat up some professors at Tulane University. So yeah, a little crazy. So, but we definitely, it was very enjoyable. I like, again, that, I've always read Trail of Cthulhu and looked at the gumshoe system, but always kind of bounced off it, not really understanding how it works and how to play. And I did enjoy it, so kind of I feel more comfortable perhaps running a Trail of Cthulhu game, or a gumshoe game for that matter. What I love about Trail of Cthulhu and the gumshoe system is that if there is a clue, you will find it. And then you have certain points given into your investigative skills, and the GM can prompt, or you can prompt to see if you need to spend, and will you get any more information. That is a limited resource. But usually if there's a clue and you have the investigative skill, you will find it. And then usually if you can't find it, you might have contacts that can have access to those investigative skills. That's kind of really how Cthulhu Confidential works. You have like some contacts that can help you find out stuff if you don't have those investigative abilities. And then for the other type of ability are general abilities, and these have a rating from 1 on up, and you roll to see if these succeed. This is like, driving, fighting, and it is even actually your sanity and your health are related to these general abilities. And there are times when you need to roll those, and you need roll a d6. You need to get a 4 or better in most cases, and you spend the points to add to that d6 roll before you roll. So honestly, early on, you can stack in a one shot. Really, you can sort of stack things that you will succeed. But if this is like an ongoing game or campaign, and you don't get a recharge in those general abilities, there's a mechanic on how often they recharge, then you're going to run out of those points, and you got to rely on that d6 roll. And sometimes there might be a minus because you're losing it, you're reaching a break point, or you're injured or something. So it's really an interesting idea and mechanic. Again, I think you can potentially stack things if you're smart as a player and don't have to do a lot of general rolls, or if the adventure doesn't call for a lot of general rolls, then you would have that sort of in your back pocket, those extra points to add to a d6 roll. But I did enjoy it. Suffice it to say, I did enjoy it. So the Invictus adventure that I played was called, like I said, Adventure at Regis. I'm not going to say a lot about it, but it takes place in a sort of resort town in Imperial Rome, early Imperial Rome. And it is actually you can look it up in the Ripples from Carcosa book, available as PDF or print on demand from the Chaosium site, probably on drive-thru too. And it's really fun. It's actually Ripples of Carcosa has 3 adventures that are pretty interesting. Actually, the critics say that they're very different from the usual COC campaigns and adventures, but that's the point. Ripple from Carcosa takes a chance by doing something very different. So you could experience 3 different time periods in a mini campaign, and being different enough from the usual Call of Cthulhu pieces that it stands out as a truly memorable experience. And suffice it to say, it did. All our characters ended up going insane, temporarily insane or indefinitely insane. So we had a blackout, and then the GM had to come up with an epilogue. So that was pretty cool. And like I got to play a Roman centurion. Really, I guess I have a type that I play. Sometimes in these games, I feel like the detective and the centurion are kind of like the same person with a lot of martial skills and intimidate type skills. And well, that's what you do. Although the policeman did have a lot, kind of like forensics and being able to like look at a situation and look for clues, type of investigative ability. So I thought that was like, I guess equivalent quote unquote spot hidden. It's not called that in Trail of Cthulhu. And then same thing with the Centurion. Good martial skills, good intimidate, not a lot of people skills. So but it was really enjoyable. I would say I would add this that really all the players were really good. I mean, not like I don't think you ever need like character actors or voice actors or whatever, but you want players that are engaged, that are into it, that contribute, that have fun, that are not a problem, and that is all seems to be generally and always the case in A Weekend with Good Friends. So I've really enjoyed all my experiences. I had some repeat players that were in both of my games, and it was really cool both times. I had players that I played with and then ran for or played multiple times in a game, and I actually had someone that I played with and then ran a game, which I think was kind of a unique experience for me, but it was kind of cool. So there's a lot of cross pollination and participation, which I think is really nice about A Weekend with Good Friends. It's small enough, but there's plenty of games. And actually, I will say I really enjoy how you get games, how you get into games. That's something very important to me and very nice. It's like you have all the games that are proposed. As a player, you then look at the schedule and say, I'd like this game, I'd like that game, and you prioritize them, and then it goes into a lottery. So you don't have people who like are right there waiting for the game to open, and then they get all the games for all the quote unquote famous people, right? So it's a lottery, and you prioritize. But hey, you don't always get your priority. That's for sure. And I guess if you have a lot of games that you put into and you put high priorities, well, they're going to bump and bounce into each other. But generally speaking, you get in a game that you're interested in, that you like. And then there's also pickup games as well. So that's really kind of neat. So I ran, again, I'm not going to really talk about the Elder Scrolls game. You can check it out on the Dungeon Musings YouTube, but it's kind of a neat hack. I haven't read through it, but I'd like to. And then the hunt was really neat. It wasn't called the hunt, like I said. It was called Today We Hunt Dragons. I changed things in there. For one, I put it 100 years earlier, and I changed the location in England from the Five Boroughs area in the Danelaw, kind of adjacent to Mercia. This during the sort of Viking occupation type of stuff. And then I changed the creature in there a little bit, but the investigation proceeded the same. I made characters that were both Mercian or local, quote unquote, Saxon, and characters who were Danish. I think it worked pretty well. There's neat tension between, because it was a kind of a very interesting time period where there's still paganism and Christianity, and it wasn't always contentious. They learned how to work together in some cases, though they were rivals, right? They're rivals for people's souls in their mind. Or do you change the old ways, and do you, because it, like where I put it, it just happened. So I put it like circa 900. So within memory, Alfred the Great had just beat Guthrum and had forced Guthrum to convert to Christianity, to be baptized as a part of the agreement to give tribute and to occupied London, so that kind of had ripples all the way through the Danelaw and Mercia, Wessex, etc. Northumbria by this time is gone. Right, it's been overrun by the Danes and other Scandinavian peoples during their Viking since Lindafarn in the late 8th century. So yeah, it's pretty fun. It's really fun to run. It had a good group again, and then lastly, the modern scenario. This is not a cult, and I don't know what Scott is doing with this one, so I'm not going to also uh, explain it other than to say, right, think of a mother, her two children, and the kid's grandfather, the mother's father, going on a weekend vacation and finding out all is not as it seems. I got to play the old curmudgeon, and I had a great time. It was probably, I don't know if it was the best group because they're all super great, but it was really, again, a very positive experience, a really good group. My character got to die, chose their death in that scenario, and I feel I got to channel like Robert De Niro. I mean, Robert De Niro and like Meet the Fockers. I mean, yeah, I'd had a good time, and the ending was, I think, like a 50% mortality rate on that one for Scott. The kids survived, the older folks did not, and really neat ending, I thought. And I don't know, I mean, he gave the pre-gens. He didn't give us an outline of the adventure, but I don't know. I feel like I want to contact him and say, hey, if you want this play tested for something or whatever, I'd love to do it. Let me know. It's definitely a fun scenario. So, yeah, again, I guess in conclusion, it was a positive experience. I mean, I really do like these online conventions. I had a great time with BSRCon earlier this year, and now with a weekend with good friends, with the good friends of Jackson Alias, Blasphemous Tome podcast. So yeah, it's pretty neat, and I hope to do it again. I mean, convention season's coming up. I guess now I gotta sit down and think about what I'm going to propose to run at CobraCon and what I'm going to propose to run at North Texas RPG Con. I have some really cool ideas that I'll probably throw out there, throw out to you guys. Chupacabra, I'd love to run like a Walking Dead and a Call of Cthulhu, maybe a Savage Worlds. And then at North Texas, I do want to go more old school. I would love to run. There's this idea, man, this guy, Andrej Cruz, I don't know how to pronounce it in Russian, but he has this kind of cool. I can think if you imagine Shadowrun mixed with Twilight 2000. So if there's like a post-apocalyptic Shadowrun, then that's what it would be. And I would love to use kind of like, so guns, probably limited hacking. There's no World Wide Web, but there's probably still like local hacking available. There's magic and sorcery, excuse me. But it was inspired by this kind of picture of dwarves with AK-47s in front of a AFV. So IFV, yeah, IFV, and that's a picture of one of the covers from one of the books. So it looked pretty neat. And I wish I could get the translation in Spanish. If there is a translation in Spanish, that'd be awesome. Probably not in English. I don't think it's in English. Since the man lives in Spain now, according to the wiki, maybe there's a translation in Spanish, but it'd be kind of neat to figure out run. But I'd use Wetwired, which is a I don't know. I can't remember is it not Black Hack? I don't remember. Anyway, I'd like to use Wetwired because Wetwired to me is like a OSR version of Shadowrun in a way. So that'd be kind of cool to use. I'd love to run something. I don't know if I would run Hyperborea, but I'd also like to run some AD&D or OSE Advanced and run Cathandra's Bane. It's It's this adventure where you're shrunk. You go to this place and then you're shrunk down and you got to deal with being shrunk and try to get out of it. So probably do a part 1 and part 2, and those are the ideas I have right now. And I don't know what I do for Hyperborea quite yet. Maybe something on my idea of the using Fort Thunder and on this island on the one of the archipelagos there in Hyperborea and running something. So I don't know. It'd be kind of cool. Exploration of a ruin or just some kind of West Marches, roll at random and see what happens. That'd be kind of neat. So yeah, but that anyway, like I said, convention season's coming up. These are ones in Texas, so in Austin, San Marcos, and Dallas, Fort Worth, respectively. So yeah. Well, that was my weekend. Hope you've enjoyed my rundown and summary. If you're like it'd be great to get some feedback. If you'd like to call me, you can leave me a message at gemologist@gmail.com or drop me a line on various Discords, drop me a voice message. I have a SpeakPipe account, and you can leave me a voice message there. So thank you so much, TJ Drennan, for the intro and outro music, and my wife, Amy Lee, for the cover clip art. But today, well, it's going to be a picture of Cthulhu. So take care, everyone. Thanks for listening. Good night and good rolling.